Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, Raiders first-round pick Tyree Wilson, he made his training camp debut, and Davante Adams, he came back to practice on day one of Raiders joint practice with the Rams. That plus a whole lot more comes up on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 17th, 2023.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won, and won, and won, and won, and won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show. Of course, as always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, we thank you. It doesn't matter if you give us 3 minutes or 33 minutes. We definitely appreciate any time each and every day that you give us. And, of course, it wouldn't be up on YouTube at all if it wasn't for my guy, Ari. He does a great job each and every day making sure we're up on YouTube. We're looking good. We're sounding good. We're doing what we're supposed to do. And Ari takes a lot of pride in making sure that we're looking good. As a matter of fact, on YouTube. So you can check him out on Twitter as well at Ari Produces. Me on Twitter at your boy Q254, and the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line is 707-654-4693. Ever since Sunday's game versus the 49ers, been getting a lot of calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line. So we'll get as many in as possible coming up in segment number 3 of today's show. Segment number 2, we'll talk about day 1 of joint practices with the Rams and the fact that it wasn't a really good practice for the Raiders. It was one of the few in the last few days, really the last handful of days, almost a week, that haven't really been a very good practice offensively or defensively, just a little bit lackluster, but there were still positives to take away. Well, what was that? We'll talk about it in segment number 2. Here, segment number 1, news and notes of the day. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And of course, the biggest news and notes of the day was the note that I saw from Vinny Bonsignore when he put it out early on Wednesday, talking about Tyree Wilson, the Raiders' first-round draft pick, has been taken off the PUP list and it's cleared to practice. Vinny tweeted that out well before Adam Schefter, tweeted it out well before Ian Rappaport. Now, he wasn't taken off the PUP list. He was taken off the NFI list, which is the non-football injury list, which is a little bit different. The PUP list is an injury that happened while the player was in the NFL, and the NFI list is while they're not in the NFL, when it has something to do outside of NFL action. And, of course, Tyree Wilson's injury happened while he was at Texas Tech. He had that surgery on his foot. So it was the NFI list. No matter what the list was, doesn't really matter. Tyree Wilson, there was an appearance on Wednesday in L.A., at day 1 of joint practices versus the Rams. You saw number 9 out there. That's big Tyree Wilson. Now, he didn't do any team drills, but he went through individual drills. And so that's just a step. But that's a positive step, right? There was a lot of people, and we've been talking about him on the podcast as of late, that, are wondering, should the Raiders gone in a direction and gone and got Jalen Carter or went and got someone else because, well, Tyree Wilson's not available. Well, what happened on Wednesday is the step 1 in him becoming available. Him getting out there on the grass, doing a little bit of football activities, lets you know that he'll be ready sooner rather than later. Does that mean that he's going to start the regular season? No, but clearly the Raiders have a plan. They're going to bring him along at their pace, not my pace, not your pace. They're going to go by the pace of what they believe is right for him, what the doctors and trainers have set up, and they're going to stick to that. And so, well, stage 1 and step 1 was what we saw on Wednesday with Tyree Wilson out there at practice. Will he get a little bit more ramped up today? We'll see. But I think it's a really positive step, and really excited about that young man, Tyree Wilson, what he could bring to the table. I'm just glad he was out there on the grass. So that was the biggest news and notes. And then also the fact that Davante Adams, and I talked about it on Wednesday's show, I didn't think that there was any chance that the Raiders were going to put Davante Adams back out there on the field. And there he was on Wednesday. And it's funny, I talked to Vinny Bonsignore on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, on Raider Nation Radio 920, later on in the afternoon on Wednesday. And he said, look, Davante's not 100%. But he knows that there's a young dude sitting behind him saying, okay, if Davante, who we all know has made the team, we all know he doesn't have to be out here to fight for a roster spot. If he can come out here a couple days after getting banged up in practice, even though he's not 100%, then why shouldn't I, right? So he's setting the standard, something that Max Crosby's talked about quite a bit, the standard. So Davante is being a hell of a leader. That was what Vinny pointed out, and I think that that's a great nugget, right? If this guy can go out there a couple days after, well, everyone getting scared, not knowing what was going on with Davante Adams, he goes out there and participates, then you better have a really good reason on why you're not out there participating. Also, head coach Josh McDaniels, he talked to the media before joint practices. He'll talk again this morning before joint practices. I believe around 9:30 in the morning Pacific time, he should be talking to the media about what he saw in day one of practices and what he's expecting in day two. But first and foremost, here's head coach Josh McDaniels talking about Tyree Wilson being activated, and then a follow-up on Tyree by Tashawn Reed from The Athletic. Here it is, Josh McDaniels talking about Tyree Wilson.
He's progressing the way we thought he would, and so now it's time to kind of take the next step here and get him on the field, get him in his pads, start working towards the ability to be in team drills and all the rest of that stuff. So we'll try to take it at the right pace here as we go.
Players usually coming off an injury like that, what's typically the biggest adjustment they have to make just in terms of ramping up on the field?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't had his pads on and, contact and, felt a 320-pound guy leaning on you and all the rest of that stuff. And so it's just, he's gone through all the other phases so far, and now it's time to, begin the contact phase and, start to do the things that a defensive edge player will do. So we're going to take the same approach we've been taking, which is, make sure that we keep checking off the box, and then we'll go to the next one. So today, hopefully, will be another step here in the right direction.
So there you go. As I said earlier, they're going to go at their own pace, but based off of everything that they've been working on, they felt like it was time for him to take that next step. And that kind of goes side by side and goes in line with what head coach Josh McDaniels said last week, right? Before, I believe, the practices with the 49ers, he said, you should see Tyree Wilson as long as everything goes correctly. You should see him out there, in the next week or so. Well, sure enough, it was basically about a week, and then all of a sudden you see Tyree Wilson out there. Again, very excited. I don't know what to expect from him this year. I don't expect him to go and get like double-digit sacks. I'm thinking around 4 or 5 should be good because I think he's going to be part of a rotation. I don't think he's going to be a guy in there that's going to get a ton of snaps. I don't think that they're going to throw the whole kitchen sink at him at one time, but he is the future. He is, Chandler Jones well after Chandler Jones is gone. At least that's the plan. So they want to make sure that he's healthy, he's ready to go, but he's also getting some, he's getting some runs out there. He's getting some, some experience under his belt. So he could be that guy and be that complimentary bookend across from Max Crosby. So, again, just exciting to see Tyree Wilson taking that next step. Here's head coach Josh McDaniels talking about joint practices. And, because it's something that he did last year with the Patriots in his first year with the Silver and Black. He did it last week with the 49ers, this week with the Rams. I think it's big. I think it's bigger than the preseason games, and I know every team doesn't do it. So here's Josh McDaniels talking about those joint practices and if it's something that he wants to continue to do.
Every year is different. It has to fit relative to who your preseason opponents are. Do they want to do it? Does the venue, accommodate, such activity? Ours obviously does in Vegas. This has been a good setup here for us in LA. So I think each year is different. We'll look at it, as we go. But I think this is a great opportunity for us to, challenge your football team, along with hitting a lot of the things I just mentioned with Hondo. Get a lot of things done in a short period of time here. And with some of the restrictions you have now, time-wise, this is as productive as we can be.
So again, I just think it makes all the sense in the world. These teams get so much out of these joint practices, way more than they get from the preseason game. And, one of the things I was looking for in these joint practices was Aiden O'Connell to get a little bit more reps in practice as opposed to what he did against the Rams, or against the 49ers, I should say, hardly got any. And he went out there and you saw how much he played on Sunday against the 49ers, and he did a really good job. So I was hoping that Aiden O'Connell was going to get a lot more reps against the Rams in joint practices. I want to see him in the game too, but I think that he should really get some of those reps during the joint practices when he's going up against the ones and he's playing with some of the ones. But according to Vinny Bonsignore, he got just about as many reps as he did against the 49ers in day one of joint practice. So probably don't expect to see him a whole lot today either. I would be glad if that changed, but it sounds like you should expect basically the same workload and see Aiden O'Connell probably about 3/4 again coming up on Saturday against the Rams, but he's just not getting that extra work, that extra attention when it comes to the joint practices. And that's really, for me and Aiden O'Connell, that's the next step, seeing how much he can get out of these joint practices, especially when he's running with the ones and going up against the ones. The final soundbite I have for you from head coach Josh McDaniels, final little nugget I have for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, news and notes of the day, is about the fact that the team really isn't fighting. Right? They didn't have any fights. They had a little bit of pushing and shoving against the 49ers, but nothing major. You look around the league, you see Washington and Baltimore going at it. You see the Cowboys going at it with themselves. I mean, a lot of teams are out there fighting, and I mentioned what I didn't want to see against the Rams was fighting either, because I just didn't think it makes any sense. They're out there to go and put the work in. Now, I know Max Crosby and Cam Akers got into it a little something. We'll actually talk about that coming up in segment number 2. But here's head coach Josh McDaniels. This was prior to practice, talking about the team not getting into joint practice fights and what he thinks about it like other teams are getting into them. Here he is, head coach Josh McDaniels.
I mean, that's not what we're here to do. We know it hurts the team when you do it in a game. Losing players in the middle of a game because, we're going to get involved in extracurricular activity after plays and all the rest of it doesn't help our football team win. And last week both teams did a good job of understanding what we wanted to try to get out of it. Sean and I are on the same page on this, in terms of what we're trying to get done here. None of it involves fighting, so, to me it's a waste of time, to come out here, and that's not toughness. That's not football. So we're here to work. We're here to try to improve our football team. I think that's what they're here to do. And hopefully we do it the right way. I was proud of the way our team competed last week and did the right things, and I expect the same thing today.
So there's Coach McDaniels right there talking about the joint practices and what the Raiders are there to do. Work, not fight. That's the way to get it done. You don't want to be out there fighting. You see teams all across the league that are fighting. They're getting no work. Right? The Raiders and Rams, they fought a couple years ago. They got on the bus and they bounced. They're getting no work. You got to get the work in. They didn't fight last week against the 49ers. They didn't fight last year against the Patriots. They're not fighting this year against the Rams. That's great. Now they had a little bit of a dust-up. Crosby and Cam Akers, they got into it a little bit, but that was really a whole lot of nothing. Matter of fact, we'll talk about it coming up in segment number 2 and how I got some positives out of a practice that was pretty lackluster for the silver and black. We'll get right to that in segment number 2 after I tell you about Nutrafol. And men think losing their hair is inevitable, right? Well, you could take control of your hair's future with Nutrafol's science-backed hair growth supplement for men. Did you know 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, but it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Don't forget, it's the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering all listeners of the Locked On Raiders podcast $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. It's spelled Nutrafol.com/men. Enter the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's Nutrafol.com/men. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to get into the conversation about Wednesday's practice and the fact that it wasn't that good. What we've seen over the last week and a half from the Silver and Black offensively and defensively has been pretty good. Right? The defense has been flying around making plays. The offense looks like they're getting on the same page. Something just wasn't clicking. And look, all full disclosure, I'm not there at practice. I'm not in Southern California, but we have eyes and ears on the ground. Vinny Bonsignore is my guy. He's there. He's checking in with me each and every day. I was going to make the trip to L.A., but it just didn't really work out and didn't really make a whole lot of sense for everything that I have going on here locally in Las Vegas. So I stayed behind, so I'm not there with my own eyes on practice, but from everything I'm hearing, everything I'm reading, and like I said, I trust Vinny very well with what he's seen. Practice wasn't that great on Wednesday. It was really slow. It started out really slow. It ramped up towards the back end of practice, and a lot of that had to do with Max Crosby. Max Crosby was a guy that realized that his team was not going out there and living up to his standard, the standard that they've set as a team for this upcoming year, and he did something about it, right? And the one thing about it is so funny, he got into a little bit of a dust-up with Cam Akers, and I mentioned that in segment number 1, where Cam was running with the ball, the play was pretty much whistle dead, and Max is still pursuing him and tries to knock the ball out, multiple times. And look, that's what they do in practice every single day. No matter if the play is called dead or not, there's always 3 or 4 guys punching at the ball afterwards trying to knock it out. That's just something that they're trying to do. They're getting the habit of doing that. for Max, he was not only trying to do that because they're in the habit of doing that, but he was also trying to fire up his team. He did that, tried to punch the ball out. It was a little bit late. Cam Akers didn't like it and basically rammed his helmet into Crosby's chest. So Crosby fired back at him, and, I guess the two guys had a few swings at each other. Cam Akers gets thrown out of practice by Sean McVay of the Rams, and Max Crosby goes to the sideline. But after that, it gave a little bit of a spark for the Raiders to at least finish off the practice really strong. So I love the fact that the standard is not set or was not set on Wednesday, but they recognize that as a team. Not just Max Crosby, multiple players that met with the media following practice realized, we weren't out there participating the way that we were supposed to. So Max Crosby, he was one of those guys that met with the media. Here's one of his sound bites, and I just got a couple from him. This one is on the team responding late in practice after he basically tried to get everybody fired up.
Yeah, every single day it's you got an opportunity to get better. There's no staying the same. So you get better, you get worse. So for me, I try to bring that juice. I bring that juice every single day, and I want my teammates to feel that. And if I got to go out there and take matters in my own hands, I could do it in different ways. So that's what I try to do. No matter what, I try to be the light, try to be the example in every single way I can.
So there's Crosby, happy that the team responded late, but obviously doesn't want to wait till late for the team to respond. They want to go out there and they have a certain standard. And it's something that Crosby's mentioned multiple times. Marcus Peters has mentioned it multiple times. There's a standard, and the standard is set. When Marcus Peters signed his contract, he only had a couple words for Raider Nation when Raiders.com was videoing him after he signed the deal. And, he said it's a new standard in town. And so, that's what everyone says, coaches, whenever they take over, we're going to change the culture. We're going to change the culture. This sounds like not only is the coaches, front office, and everyone changing the culture, but the players are making sure that the culture is changed as well. So here's Max Crosby on being unhappy with the team that weren't playing up to the standard. And what exactly is the standard?
Yeah, no question. The standard is you show up and get better. I don't know. For me, I as a leader, it's unacceptable. You see guys, not being at their best, but there's an opportunity tomorrow to get better. So, I'm looking forward to everybody getting out there and getting better.
So again, Max Crosby disappointed because his team didn't live up to the standard. He knows one speed all the time. That's 100 miles an hour. He wants to get better. He wants to grind. He wants to work, right? And that's what he does. And so that's a positive that, again, these guys recognized it. It didn't take the coaches to come in and say, hey, man, you guys weren't out there performing. You guys look like you were sleepwalking. You guys didn't give maximum energy for these guys or effort. For these guys to recognize it on their own. And I don't want to get too high on this team just yet because it's still training camp. It's still preseason. We haven't seen a regular season game, so we don't know what they're going to look like. But, man, a lot of the signs along the way just make me feel like this team is trending in the right direction. What does that mean exactly? Or does that mean they're going to be a 9, 10, 11-win team? No. But it just seems like they're putting good habits in front of them. They're building something the right way where this team expects more from themselves. And that's something that I can't say this team has been about for year in and year out, right? They need to expect the most out of themselves and expect excellence. What do they say? Commitment to excellence? They need to expect a commitment to excellence each time they take the field. So here's the final soundbite I have from Mad Max Crosby, and it's just a question about, does he get up more for joint practices?
I'm the same guy every single day. Every time I come in here, I come to get better. So, some days you're going to feel, some days you're going to feel great. It is what it is. You got to get better and find ways to improve. Those are the days you get better, when you don't feel like you want to go, when you don't feel, when you're feeling bad for yourself. That's when you really got to, go to that dark place. So, for me, no matter what it is, I'm trying to get to that place, no matter what, and just bring my teammates with me.
I love what he said there, that he's just the same guy all the time. And that's really who you have to be. You can't be that guy that, is like a roller coaster, right? He's a 10 at some point, gets down to a 3, then goes back up to an 8, and goes back down to a 4, then comes back up to a 9, gets back down to a 2, right? You can't be a roller coaster, man. You got to be steady Eddie, right? So if you're looking and watching on YouTube, I got my hand just kind of at a level spot. Coaches prefer, even if you're only going to be a 7, just be a 7 consistently. They want to know what they're going to get from you consistently. And that's how all walks of life should be when it comes to business, right? You want your employees, if you are a manager of people, you want to know what you're going to get from them all the time, right? If you're going to get a guy that's going to be great one day and then bad the next day, that's not the guy you want. You rather have the guy that may never be a 10, but is like a 7 all the time. Hey, I know I'm going to get 70% effort. I'm going to get, a 70% completion rate, or whatever the case is. You want that steady Eddie guy as opposed to one that rides like a roller coaster, because that will never get it done. But I love the fact that there seems to be a standard that really is set. Right? It's easy for people to say that. It's easy for players and coaches to talk about culture and standards and this, that, and the other. It's almost like new coach 101 or player trying to be a leader 101. But this just feels different. Again, I don't want to get too high. I don't want to get too low. I want to be steady Eddie, right? I want to be right there in the middle or a little bit above the middle, right? Not at a 5, but really at a 7, and hope that the Raiders are doing the same thing. It just seems to be something different about this team. Again, there's still a long ways to go before the season starts. They still have 2 more preseason games and plenty of practices, so they've got a lot of work to do. But knowing that you could take a lackluster practice, the players themselves recognize it, they can go into the film room, look at it, and say, hey, what was this? What were we doing? This is not Raider football. And know that that is a good thing. I'll take that from a bad practice. It's like when I do a bad show. I know when I do a bad show, and please believe, Raider Nation, I do bad shows at times, and I get very mad at myself, and I was like, hey, that was a bad show. That is not a Q show. That can't happen. What did I do? Why did that show come out wrong? Why did I mess up like I messed up? Or why didn't I express my feelings the right way? What was going on me? Was I not focused? And so I can do that. I can break my own self down. For the players to understand that this is not our standard, this is not what we do, this is not good enough, that is a good thing. That's a positive. That's only going to make this team better. So that makes me fired up. Like, I got a lot of things I want to see from this team today and hear that this team did today, but I'm not even going to express them. I'm just going to let it roll out and see how they respond. I think this is a good teaching moment, right? A learning lesson. How do they respond to a bad day? Do they stack bad days, or do they clear that, put it behind them, and come back with a strong day? That's what I'm most intrigued by. How do they respond to a bad day of practice? And it wasn't an awful day. It just wasn't the standard that we've seen and heard as of late. How do the Raiders respond to what they did on Wednesday? Can they build off of that and put that as a one-off instead of, well, all of a sudden they're consistently bad again, right? You want to see them bounce back from that, and that's what I'm hoping to see and hear from today's practice. Coming up in segment number 3, your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. This is the Locked On Raiders podcast. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. We'll start off with a text today. Normally we start out with calls. We'll go with a text. This text comes from John from the South Bay in L.A. Hey, Q. You've mentioned a lot how winning will get more Raider fans to fill Allegiant Stadium to give us a better home field advantage. You pointed to the Golden Knights and the Aces as examples in Vegas that fans would go if you build a winner. But now that you've been there a while, what is your sense of how strong the fan base is in Las Vegas for the Raiders? Not counting Oakland or Los Angeles or anywhere else, is it slowly building? Is it strong? Do the Raiders need to do more both on and off the field? Also, if you could, and since Raider Nation is a family, if you can give a little shout out to the NFL flag, South Bay Raiders. We just won the Junior Division Championship this past weekend. We not only grew our fan base, which wasn't really the intention, but a bunch of great, hardworking 10-year-olds put in the work to win it all. We went from 0-7 a few seasons ago to winning it all in convincing fashion. I couldn't be more proud of this group of kids and families in the community. If we could come together and turn it around, so can the NFL Las Vegas Raiders. That's John from South Bay in L.A., and congratulations. Congratulations and congratulations. That's awesome, man. The NFL flag, South Bay Raiders, shout out to you. Congratulations on winning that Junior Division Championship. And, yeah, you're right. If they can do it, the Raiders can do it, right? I mean, anybody can go from being a bad team to being a good team. You just got to have the right players in place, the right coaches in place, and the right mindset in place. So hopefully that's what the Raiders, the NFL Raiders, are getting to. As far as, winning in Las Vegas, that's the thing. If you don't win in Las Vegas, they're not going to go. That's simple. There's just too much stuff to do here in Las Vegas. So, the Aces are winners. You see the Aces packed out their Michelob Ultra Arena. The Golden Knights, they just won the Stanley Cup. They're packed out. When they weren't winning, when they didn't make the playoffs a year ago, there was, tickets were being sold left and right? And opposing fans were filling up T-Mobile Arena, and people were booing the Golden Knights. They were so mad at them. And then all of a sudden, boom, they bounced back. So as far as the Raiders are concerned, yeah, the fan base is growing, but it needs to see more winning. When they won that Week 18 game against the Chargers and found their way to the playoffs, this city was buzzing. It was really buzzing with Raider fans because, okay, that's what they needed to see what this team could really be. But then they turned in the 2022 season, and while we all know how that shook out. And so, yeah, again, and it's not right. It's not, the exact definition of diehard fans. But if you're not winning in Vegas, there's just too much to do as opposed to going sitting in the stadium for 3.5 hours, spending a whole lot of money to watch the team lose. Sell your tickets, go somewhere else, go to a show, go do this, that, and the other, and have a good time and come away with the profit. That's just how it's going to be. So the Raiders on the field have to do more winning. Off the field, they're doing great in the community. The community recognizes them as an organization that does a lot. So that's not the problem. But they do need to continue to win or start winning on a consistent basis. And on top of that, they need to show and continue to teach the new Raider fans here in Vegas what Raider football is all about. Continue to share the message. And that's why I love being on Raider Nation Radio 920 and hope to start continuing, I should say, to educate the new Raider fans here in Las Vegas. It's going to take a while. It's not going to be overnight. It's only been a couple years since they've been here. And the first year, it was the pandemic, so there was no fans in Allegiant Stadium. But winning cures all. It's the best deodorant. I say it all the time. If the Raiders start winning convincingly and consistently, the fans will be there, and it'll be the local fans as well. So thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you, and congratulations again. Up next, got a call from Jay Peasy in the 209. He's calling to talk about quarterback Aiden O'Connell and why he thought the Raiders had something with them when he saw him originally. Here he is, Jay Peasy in the 209.
Yo, what's up, Q? It's your boy Jay Peasy from the 209. Just calling about young Aiden, man, and dude, I called in a few weeks ago and I told you I think we got something special with this guy. I don't know what it is, but it's just his calm, cool, and collectedness. Like, honestly, what really made me say, oh, I think we got something special, there's a picture of Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, and Bryce Young. All the three of them right there, top quarterbacks that everybody wanted. And then there's young Aiden right there looking like some guy off Super Troopers or something like that. Like, it's just perfect. Like, you can bring up this image 20 years from now and be like, damn, like, who would have thought? Like, I don't know. It's just something that, like, when I saw that picture, I was like, wow, I think we got it. I think Ziegler and McDaniels snagged the best quarterback in that draft. Now, obviously, we're all overreacting. It's one game, and I'm honestly overreacting, too. I want to see more of this guy, but, man, did he put on, like, not a show, but he just kind of made everybody look like, he made McDaniels and Dave Ziegler look like, yeah, they know what they're doing, and I trust them, simply off that pick. That's all I got to say. Peace out, Q.
Thanks for the call, my man. I liked what I saw from Aiden for sure. I was surprised by what I saw. I'm not going to put it out there that I wasn't. It was a pleasant surprise. Now I just want to see more. I was hoping that he would get more run in joint practice number 1 against the Rams. Maybe he'll get some more today. Not too sure, but, I do like what I see from him. At the very end of the day, I'm sure we'll see a lot of them come Saturday during the game against the Rams. And according to about the mustache, when Coach McDaniels met with them at the Combine, they told him they had to get rid of the mustache. Him and Dave Ziegler, I guess they got a good laugh out of it. Got to get rid of the mustache. But he said he's been rocking with it for like 18 weeks or however long. Like, that thing meant something to him. So he's holding on to it. If he really does become something, and I was talking about it on my radio show on Wednesday, if Minshew Mania became something, please believe Aiden O'Connell and that mustache can become something, right? So we'll see, but he's got to go out there and make a name for himself before the mustache makes a name for itself, if you know what I mean. But thank you for that call. I do appreciate you. Got time for a couple more. We got a text from 661 Raiders. Said, what's up, Q? Silver and Black Hole from the 661 here. I'll keep it short and sweet. As Al Davis once said, I think that somewhere within the first 5 to 10 plays of the game, the other team's quarterback must go down, and he must go down hard. And we did that. In the opening drive against the Niners, our D set the tone and let them know, not today. I believe our defense has turned the corner and will not be the weakness, but our strength. Raiders are going to get back to striking fear into our opponents. Just win, baby. That's a text from Silver and Black Hole from the 661. And that's the thing, man. And someone pointed that out to me on Monday on my radio show, that what Al Davis said about, the quarterback must go down hard. They got to Trey Lance twice in the first 3 plays. If the Raiders could start putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks consistently like that, yeah, then all of a sudden that defense, that makes things go a lot better. And you think about it, you hit the quarterback a couple times early in the game. I don't care who you are. And this is what Donald Penn told me post-game. Q, if you get to the quarterback like that and hit him early in the game, I don't care what quarterback it is in the league, they're going to think about it. So that's why the quarterback must go down and must go down hard early. You don't want them to get too comfortable. Rattle them a little bit. Let them think about it. Let them know, hey, this guy's coming screaming off the edge. I better get rid of the ball. This guy's coming screaming up the middle. I better get rid of the ball. Or, force them into some bad plays. So you're absolutely right about that. Hopefully we continue to see that pressure on the quarterback. Final call for the show today, Raider Ed in the OC. He's calling to shout out the podcast. Shout out my man Ari. Also shares his feelings on the season, what his mood is on the team, and has a question for me about the game day broadcast. Here he is, Raider Ed in the OC.
Hey, what's up, Q? What's up, Raider Nation? This is Raider Ed from OC, from Orange County. Shout outs to Raider Nation. Shout outs to you, Q. Just want to say thank you so much for everything you do, brother. Everything you do for Raider Nation. I still listen to your podcast every day. It's my first listen. I listen to your podcast while I'm working out. It's definitely a daily listen. Thank you so much for everything you do, Q, for us. As always, I'm very happy for all your success. I want to also say happy belated birthday to Ari. Much love, Ari. Also, thank you so much, Ari, for everything you do for us as well. Q, Raider Nation, I'm very optimistic, very positive about this season. I'm right there with you, Q. I'm just very excited, very happy that football is back, that we get to see Raiders football. I'm definitely optimistic, and I'm just very excited. Q, I want to ask you a question. Are we going to see you on the pregame shows more often? Because I really enjoy listening to you before the games, like I did this past weekend. Just want to get that info. If you're going to be calling more of the pregame shows, would love to see that happen. All right, Raider Nation, Q, take care. Have a great week, and enjoy this season of Raiders football. Okay, bye.
Thank you for the call, my man. I appreciate you, and thanks for the kind words. And, yeah, I feel pretty excited about the season as well. I want to see more before I get too high on it. But, just from what I've been seeing in training camp, what I've been obviously seeing in the preseason game against the 49ers, and how I believe this team is continuing to try to build itself, it is something to get excited about. So hopefully everything continues to trend in the right direction. As far as the pregame and postgame show, I'll be on it this Saturday. For the Rams game, I'll be at Raiders HQ. JT is going to be on the radio call, him, Lincoln Kennedy, and Eric Allen. So that's why I'm doing the pre- and the post-game show. JT has been doing the radio call, while Jason Horowitz has been doing the TV call. So this week against the Rams and next week against the Cowboys, I'll do the pre- and the post-game show, both from Raiders HQ. And then JT will be back for the pre- and the post-game show during the regular season. And for home games, I'll be doing the pre-show, which is the 3 hours before kickoff. It'll be 1 hour before JT and Eric Allen take over. I'll do, like I said, a little warm-up show, a pre-show, and then I'll pass the sticks on to JT and Eric Allen 2 hours before broadcast. That'll lead you right up to the broadcast and kickoff. But that's only on home games, and that'll come to you from Allegiant Stadium, Coors Light Landing, right next to the Torch. So there's that. So that's kind of the latest and the greatest when it comes to the broadcast. Thanks for the kind words, though. I do appreciate you. And, hopefully this thing continues to roll, man. And the Raiders get to the regular season, and they surprise a lot of people. I would love to be able to talk about that throughout the course of the 2023 season. So that's all I got for you on today's show, Raider Nation. The Raiders will be back in practice today, day 2 of joint practices versus the Rams. Then they'll be off. And then, of course, Saturday will be the game, coming to you live from L.A. at SoFi Stadium. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.